In a second. Hello, good evening, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on what part of the world you are in. It's another Monday, and I do hope you had a lovely weekend. I did have one. I had a lovely weekend. It was very restful. These days, I'm taking my time to rest. Those who know me, they know that I've always been a workaholic, but I'm really trying to I'm trying to slow down now because one is not getting any younger. Anyway, so I try as much as possible, at least over the weekend, to make sure I do have some rest. Yeah, so but here we are today. It's another Monday, and I hope you are ready for me. Yes, my name is Tony Ogunbanjo, and I'm here on behalf of Listening Ears. We are award-winning charity based in the Royal Borough of Greenwich. And this is our baby project, which is called Let's Share It. It's a talk show, and we are here every Monday. I'm here every Monday on our YouTube channel and also on Facebook every Monday at 6 o'clock. And because of those of you who are watching or tuning in for the first time today, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Listening Ears so that you know where we are coming from. Well, like I said before, Listening Ears is an award-winning charity. We've been on now in the Royal Borough of Greenwich for 14 years, still counting. On October 30, we will clock 14 years, which is quite a long time to have been going on. But we thank God. We thank God predominantly because of the lives that we have been able to touch within the space of the 14 years. Now, Listening Ears, I'll tell you why we were set up. Listening Ears was set up out of a heartfelt concern about the level of isolation that is prevalent in our community. So we provide, generally speaking, we provide emotional health and lifestyle support service to people in our community. But we are very, very hard on isolation. We don't want anybody to be isolated. We don't want anybody to be on their own. In fact, I'll come to that because that is actually what gave birth to this particular project. Let's Share It. So we have three major areas where we are very passionate, and our charity focuses on those three areas, and upon that bedrock is how we plan all our projects. Because what we do is we engage with people in the community, look at what needs are out there, what are the gaps that are not being filled, what are the areas of need that people are presenting. And then, of course, once we identify any need, we try to set up a project around that area of need so that we can provide a solution to such problems. And I'll quickly tell you the three areas of our passion. Our first area is about reducing the level of isolation, particularly among the elderly people and the over 50s. And our second area of passion is about supporting and empowering and nurturing young girls along their journey into adolescence or into womanhood, if you like. And then our third area of passion is about enlightening and empowering local members of our community to take very small steps of change so that they can achieve improved health and total well-being. So those are the areas of our passion. And around these three areas, we base all the projects that we run. Now, I'll quickly tell you about the Rosebud Center for Girls, which is our girls project, which by the grace of God clocks 10 this Saturday. So we are celebrating. It's a landmark. 10 years is a long time to be running a project, and we thank God because we have been able to, by virtue of all the projects of the programs that we have put up within the project in the last 10 years, we have been able to successfully touch so many lives. At least I can confidently tell you that on the top of my hands, I can tell you that we have had at least about 1,000 girls come through the project in the last 10 years. So we are really grateful to God for the difference positive difference we are making in the lives of young girls. Many of our girls who used to be at Rosebud, some of them are now, well, many of them are now graduates. Some of them even have their masters. Some of them, they are very well placed. As a matter of fact, we have two of them who have actually come back to give back to the charity, who are now serving as members of our trustees, which is interesting. I mean, when you look at young girls that you nurtured them and then they became ladies in their own right, and then they think, you know what, we need to go back to this place to say thank you. And that is their own way of saying thank you, to come back to see how can they mentor the other girls. I mean, there is one of them who has a first class in mathematics. So every time that she has a little time in her hands, particularly during the holidays, she comes to the center and she supports the young girls. Because even in my own days, we had one kind of feeling about mathematics and the teachers. It was just one of those things you really don't like. But I don't know if many people are like me. I know those who are my classmates, a lot of us, we never liked maths or our maths teacher. But I don't know if it is still the same. But this young lady, she comes back into the project and then she encourages these young girls to let them understand that maths is not an enemy after all. I mean, if she could get a first class in mathematics, that means they can do it. So she comes back around, she supports these girls, she encourages them. I mean, it's just amazing. And so we, in the center, I'll tell you a little bit, I'm so passionate about this project, particularly, I'm so excited. When I was just thinking, hold on, when did we start this project? And it's already 10 years. I can't believe it. Because for me, if you ask me, I'll just say, is it more than 3 or 4 years since we started? Because the years just flew past quite quickly. But I really thank God. I am so grateful to God. Before the COVID, what we used to do at the Rosebud Center is that we run different workshops because, young people, everybody have their own ways of finding their expression. So what we do is we try to create an opportunity for each and every one of them to find their expression. So we run different workshops based on different areas. For instance, we run workshops on jewelry making. We do workshops on fashion design. We do a lot of work around cookery and cooking skills. We do things around music, around singing, around dancing, around physical exercise, different things really. In fact, they do self-defense. You see, because, I mean, in the wake of all the bullying that goes on in the school, we want to make sure that our girls can really carry themselves and be confident in their own skin. So we just try to provide opportunity for them to be able to identify who are they really, and then to be able to present themselves to the world. Because you see, the way things go on nowadays for young people, actually not just young people, even for people who are older, it's with the advent of the social media, a lot of times people are now defined, they allow the social media to define them. And it's so sad. So, and you find even people who are in their 40s, who are in their 50s, who they don't even know who they are, because they have allowed the social media and the circumstances that they find themselves to define who they are. And this is one of the things we don't want to happen for these our young girls. So we think when you catch them young, obviously it is easier for you to build a kind of a foundation that is solid so that they can build on that. So part of the things we are very key about is about helping them to find their identity, to know who they are, and then to be able to have the confidence to present themselves to the world that this is who I am, not what the social media say I am. So we are very passionate about that. And then pre-COVID, we run all these workshops every day after school, because of course all our girls go to school anyway. So after school, the workshops used to run between 4:30 and 6:30. And then we run different things. We change the set of the timetable once every 6 weeks so that there can be a lot of variety. They say variety is the spice of life. So we make sure there is a lot of varieties so that all the girls who come, their needs can be met, their areas of interest can be attended to. So we just do that. And then, of course, once every year, we organize a residential program where we take the girls away for 1 week. Last year, I can't forget last year experience. I mean, it was lovely, it was beautiful. We took them to Lancashire. We had 32 girls, ranging from ages, I think ages 7 to 18. The oldest person we took was 18, and the youngest was 7. So we had 1 whole week with these lovely 32 girls. No mommy, no daddy. Of course, the first day was rocky. Of course, they're like, oh, my mommy, my daddy, that kind of stuff. But then by the second day, they got into the mood of the fact that, you know what, it is what it is. You're away from home, no mommy, no daddy. So we had a lot of time to work with these girls very in depth. We were able to go into different areas of skill building, because there are some of our young people who don't even go to the shops. They don't know how to do any shopping. They don't know how to do any budgeting. They don't know how to cook, all sorts of things. So we try our best. I know we can't do everything. That's why actually the project works in collaboration with all the parents so that we can all be on the same page, so that whatever we are trying to teach the girls at the center, the parents at home can corroborate what we are teaching them, and then we can both be on the same page. So that 1 week away was a beautiful time for us to particularly teach them around relational skills. Because you see, these young people, they will go to uni and they will have roommates they don't necessarily like, but they still have to, gel with them one way or the other because they have to live together in that room. And what can they do? So all the skills that you need to develop around knowing how to relate with people, whether or not you are related to them or not, or whether they are your family members, those are part of the skills that was there. We put them in groups. They had to do some budgeting. They had to do some planning. We took them physically to the shops. They had to buy their own ingredients. They had to cook their food, and we all had to eat it the way it was. But it was lovely. It was a lot of work, trust me. It was a lot. Oh my goodness. It was so exhausting. But when you have something that's exhausting, but you're actually enjoying it, I don't know if I'm trying to see, one of my friends called children, she calls them joyful. What does she call them? I think she calls them troublesome joy. She says something like, it's like mixing sadness and joy, technically, if you know where I'm coming from. So it was a lot of job. It was a lot of work. It was very exhausting. But trust me, I loved every bit of it because you see, my passion is about seeing transformation, seeing change in the life of people. I can miss my food to effect change on somebody that I'm trying to support. It makes me excited when I see that I'm making a difference in the life of somebody, particularly when it is a positive change. I mean, people that because I run trainings around healthier eating, healthier cooking, and all that stuff. So when I meet people who are my students in quotes, after some time, and I find them and they are looking very lovely. As a matter of fact, let me give you one little story. I ran into one lady who was one of my students. I did a training with a church in East London, I think about 6 or so years ago. So I had 10 people in my class. The class ran for over 10 weeks. So during the class, I'll have to teach them how they can cook more healthily, how they can eat more healthily, how they can, just generally speaking, how they can improve their health and their total well-being. Because the focus of the training I run is about how you can confidently take charge of your health, as opposed to allowing and handing over your health into the hand of your doctors. I don't have anything against doctors. What I'm just saying is that for instance, if we have health issues, obviously we go to the hospital to see the doctors and they give us medications and all that. But there are lots of things that we can do on our own to take responsibility for the improvement of our situation. You see, because for instance, I'll just give you a quick example. If somebody has something like high blood pressure and then you are put on medication, there are lots of things that you can do to help yourself, which the doctor is not going to do for you anyway. I mean, about looking at your your diet, looking at what you eat, how to eat it, how you cook it, and all that kind of stuff. For instance, one typical problem, one typical culprit of high blood pressure is too much salt. So those are part of the little things that I try to educate people in my classes, that if they can at least reduce how much of salt they put in their cooking. You see, because sometimes it is not even because people don't know these things, but a lot of times, maybe because they haven't seen anybody to actually get them to take responsibility for effecting a change, or sometimes they might have what I would call insufficient information about options that are available to them. For instance, in my classes, sometimes people, oh, if you don't put salt, they will put salt, they will put Maggie cubes, they will put no chicken, no whatever, they will put all sorts of. Some will even put that something, I've forgotten what name they call that whitish stuff. They put that again, and all in the name of seasoning this food. So sometimes they do that because that is what they know to do. And I'm not blaming them. And I'm not condemning anybody, because listening here is not about condemning people. We're about supporting people. We're about meeting people where they are at. And we are about holding their hands and then help them to get to where they need to be. And in the process of that journey, of course, it is completely non-judgmental. So back to my point. So what I'm saying is sometimes people don't know what alternatives do they actually have. So if we take, for example, something like salt, something as simple as salt, one of the things that I teach people in my class is that they should experiment with using a lot of herbs and spices. And you see, even talking about herbs and spices, there are some people, again, that is the limit to how much information they have on the different varieties. That's number one. Number two, the other thing that I want to say now, which, trust me, I am saying it without disrespect, and I'm saying it humbly, is that sometimes people don't even want to try new things. People don't want to get away from their comfort zone. When you go to Asda or Sainsbury's or any of them shops, and you go to the area where they have all these herbs and spices, there are some people, again, I say this without disrespect. I am not saying it to judge anybody. I am just saying it as a way of expressing, to just drive my point home. A lot of times people go on that aisle. The only thing they are looking for is things that they're already used to. They are probably looking for garlic. They are looking for curry. They are looking for thyme, and that's it. They don't look for any other thing. But there are loads of options on that aisle. Loads, countless. So many things. So one of the things I'm going to say to us, to you, my listeners, is that we should try and experiment with things. One thing I love about cooking is a very practical thing that I think for me, the peak of creativity is in the kitchen. And the peak of creativity can be in your plate. So for me, I don't really like to be fussy about any kind of recipe. I just get into my kitchen and I just keep on exploring stuff. So if you go to the aisle of herbs and spices, try so many other things: oregano, rosemary. In fact, there are so many. Turmeric, for instance, is particularly good. Turmeric, maybe I don't know, maybe next week. I can even come around next week and talk about herbs and spices. I don't know if we're able to finish what I want to talk to you about today. The next week, I can come around and tell you about different kinds of herbs and spices and what they are good for and stuff like that. And then, because these things are so natural, the interesting thing is that by the time we put these herbs and spices to season maybe our fish or our meat, that's another story for another day. Because this meat thingy, we have to reduce that as much as possible. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't eat meat. Don't let me digress now. Let me continue with what I'm saying. So by the time we put all these herbs and spices, you'll be amazed how much it has changed the taste already of what we are cooking. That is number one. Number two, it will allow us to be able to have the natural taste of that particular item we are cooking. If it is fish, you will be able to taste like fish. But when we have put so much salt, so much Maggi, so much knorr cubes and all that, trust me, what you just be tasting is the Maggi and the knorr cube. You won't even taste the fish. Anyway, back home, because that was all sorts of digression, but I'm sure you got one or two things from there. So Rosebud Center is our center where we support young girls. And like I said, we clock 10 on Saturday, God willing. We were planning a very lovely celebration. The girls have been planning, they've been rehearsing. They wanted to have a lovely showcase, but Corona said we shouldn't make any arrangement in his absence, or in his presence, whatever the case may be. So because of Corona, we are now restricted to celebrating online. So those of you who want to join us on Saturday, I'll be looking really forward to seeing all of you. Now, if I go on to meanwhile, before I forget, Rosebud is running online in spite of the COVID. Our workshops are running online, and we run our workshops now because schools have resumed technically. So our workshops now have moved from afternoon, because during the summer holidays, we ran the workshops in the afternoon from about 12 to about 2. But now the workshops have moved to 5 o'clock. So if you go on our website, rosebudcenter.org, you will see the timetable of what we are running now. It runs between 5 and 6:30, Monday to Friday. As a matter of fact, we have started some sessions on Saturdays. This last Saturday, the girls, they were baking. In fact, when they put all the things they baked on the WhatsApp group, honestly, my mouth was watering. I was like, oh my goodness. I think they baked some bread, they did some pizza. It was lovely. Can you imagine? It was just beautiful, because these girls are in their homes, and then we have put all the arrangement together. Thank God for Brenda. She does a very lovely job with these girls. So she has put a lot of arrangement together. Prior to the day of the cookery workshop, she will have sent them the recipes so the girls can liaise with their parents and they can buy all the ingredients that they need. And then they all come online on Saturday and they have a wonderful day. So Brenda does a lot of beautiful job with these girls on Saturdays. So please, because you see, one of the things that we are passionate about is about supporting these young ladies, so that by the time they grow up and they want to answer the word woman, they're actually ready. And when I talk about readiness, I'm talking about emotionally, psychologically, physically, and even domestically. We don't want to see mothers on the streets who cannot cook, mothers who don't who have no sense of responsibility and all that. So we don't want to see things like that. That's why we're really passionate about this project at Listening Ears. So if you have any girl between the ages of 7 and 16, please, by all means, just go to our website, rosebudcenter.org, and you can always download the application form and you can fill it and send it in an email to us at rosebudcenter@gmail.com. And one of the members of staff will get back to you. Now, for our other project, we also run 3 projects actually to support the elderly and the over 50s to reduce isolation amongst them. So what we do, before COVID, we had 2 drop-in centers. We had one running in Abbeywood and another one running in Thamesmead. The one in Abbeywood, by the grace of God, has clocked 11 years this year. And the one in Thamesmead is just a little over 2 years. We're doing that one in partnership with the Peabody. So what we do, basically, the elderly people have a space to come around, to have a laugh, have a chat, have a cup of tea or coffee. They do physical exercise so they can keep the limbs moving. And then they have a buffet once in a month. We go on a seaside trip every year. Last year we were in Brighton. It was beautiful. And I'll use the opportunity to say a shout out of thank you to Annington Limited. Annington is our corporate sponsor. They sponsored our seaside trip last year. They paid for the coach. We had I think it was a 54-seater coach or so, which was full, and they paid for the coach. They not only did that, when we got there, every one of us who was on the coach, they bought us fish, fresh fish just taken from the sea and chips. It was mwah, it was lovely. So they bought us that. Three of their managers went on the trip with us, which was very exciting. So when we finished that, they took us to the ice cream parlor. Everybody had ice cream. It was a beautiful journey. We would have gone again this year to somewhere in the seaside, but you know what? Corona didn't allow that. But I trust God. Next year is just around the corner, and I believe God very seriously. All this Corona stuff, the Lord will have eased out everything completely and wipe out every memory of Corona in the mighty name of Jesus. That is our prayer, and I know that God is going to hear that, so that next summer, by the grace of God, our elderly people can go and enjoy the sun again at the seaside. It's always so lovely. You know, so some of them, they will just go by the sea, they just lie down by the seashore, and they are just enjoying themselves. That when we finish, we'll be like, Auntie, we have to go. It's already 5 o'clock. And they're like, oh, I didn't know the time has gone so quickly. So it's always a lovely time. Even I love it every year. I don't want to miss it for anything. So we are trusting God, fingers crossed, that next year, summer, God willing, we go back again to the seaside. So the third project we run for the elderly people to support them is a very hands-on project. That's the one we call Community Angels, where we actually take the service to our service users in the comfort of their homes. So what we do is we recruit volunteers, and we, of course, DBS check them, and then we prepare a volunteer to a service user. So the volunteer goes to the house of the service user to say hello to them at least once in a week. Give them about an hour, and then between the service user and the carer, and the volunteer, we're not carers, by the way. So between the volunteer and the service user, they agree on how they want to spend the 1 hour, which is up to both of them, as long as they agree between themselves. They might decide to just have a chat, have a laugh. They might decide to watch TV together. If the client or the service user, if he or she is still fit enough to take a walk, they can decide to take a walk in the 30 minutes of the 1 hour. They just do what they like. The important thing that we offer them is the companionship, which is golden. Because you see, let me tell you today, there are some of our service users, they don't have nobody. And I mean nobody except listening ears. So it's a very crucial service that we are offering to these people. And so I want to use this opportunity to call out to you guys there. If there's any of you who can give us a couple of hours a week, even if it is only 2 hours a week, that you can afford to give to us, to sow as a seed into the life of somebody else, to give them some companionship. Even if you cannot physically go, if you want to be a telephone befriender, we'll appreciate it. We need volunteers in different areas of our charity work. We need a lot of volunteers. So we will really appreciate it if you have 1 hour there, if you have 2 hours there, whatever skill the Lord has blessed you with, that you can sow into the life of somebody else and at least help them to improve their quality of life. We will greatly appreciate it. So we are grateful. So that's our third project for the elderly people, the Community Angels. And then, of course, we have this, our baby project, which is the Let's Share It, the talk show on which we are talking today. And the talk show is just born out of our feeling and persuasion that there is a lot of pain that is out there in the air. And people really want to talk, but how many people are ready to listen? In fact, I tell people, you know what? A lot of us, and a lot of the time, we hear, but we don't listen. When I say that to people, they start wondering, Tony, what are you talking about? Yes, I mean it. A lot of us, we hear people, but we don't listen to them. And I'll tell you how. You see, everybody can hear. If you say something, once the person is not deaf, they can hear what you are saying. But when you listen, you will have, before you can be said to have listened, you will have taken a step further than hearing and processing what you heard. And after processing, you take a further step to do something, to take an action on that which you have heard, then you can say to have listened. So that is what we do at Listening Ears. We not only hear the challenges that people are going through, we digest it, we think about it, we process it in our mind and in our heart and on our project table. We calculate what can we do, we brainstorm, we make arrangements and we make different plans. And then we look at what can we do, either to alleviate that problem or to bring a total solution to it, or to at least cushion it so that whoever is going through that particular situation, you see, the thought that you feel when somebody else is sharing your body, they say a burden shared is already half solved. It goes a long way. You see, because I tell people we don't necessarily need to have answers to everybody's problems. We don't necessarily need to have answers to every question, or we don't necessarily need to have solutions to every issue. But you see, the simple fact that you find somebody to share, to listen to what you are going through, and to just give you even just one little encouragement. When I talk about things like this, honestly, I'm so emotional about it. For the person to just give you a little encouragement and say, you know what, tomorrow is going to be better than today. I keep telling people, all those people who commit suicide, if the night before they took that action, if they found one person to listen to them, I didn't say to hear, to listen to them and help them to process what is it they are going through, and just give them a little encouragement. I don't mean give a solution, don't get me wrong, because you see, we don't necessarily need to have solutions, but just give a little encouragement and tell that person, you know what, why don't you try and give it another shot? Tomorrow might be better than today. Trust me. They probably will have changed their mind. They wouldn't commit that suicide. But you see, it is very difficult when people are going through stuff, when they think it is the end of the road, when they look right, they look left, they look forward, they look backward, they don't find anybody, they can't even find any hope, and they can't find meaning to their lives anymore. They get so overwhelmed by what they are going through, and everything seems so bleak. And just like that, that wicked thought will just come into their spirit that he that is down needs fear no fall. And that's it. It's really sad, very sad. And you see, I don't always want to be a prophet of doom. I don't want to come on this show and tell you information that is going to depress you. I don't want to tell you information that is going to make you unhappy. Honestly, when I look at in the course of my work, because you see, when we start applying for fundings and all that, a lot of times we need all the statistics that we find, because that is how we can actually make our case to our funders to let them see the magnitude of the need that we are trying to address. So invariably, we need all the statistics, so we go looking for them. And when we get all these statistics, honestly, trust me, sometimes the statistics are so depressing. By the time you look at how many people have committed suicide, look at what is the statistics of people who are suffering from depression, look at the statistics of people who have problems with obesity, look at the statistics of people who have high blood pressure, those who have heart problems, those who have diabetes, all sorts of things. The statistics is so depressing. But you see, and so I don't want to keep coming here and tell you about these statistics in the first place. If you want to know the statistics, you can go online. I mean, all you need to do is just get on Google. You will find all the statistics and then you can find them. But I don't want to. So what I always want to do when I come here is to give you a message of hope. Talk about what can we do to alleviate. Of course, we'll identify the problems. I mean, like today, for instance, what we are going to talk about quickly, briefly, I'm sure we are going to continue it next week, is about heart disease. For instance, rather than me coming here to start to tell you how many people are suffering from heart disease, I don't need to depress you with such information, because if you want to know, you can get online. You can go on Google, just cause to get on your keyboard and type that in, and then prompt to the thing, the information comes up to you. But rather, I would rather come to give you a message of hope. I would rather come to tell you, okay, heart disease is now prevalent in our society. We don't need anybody to tell us that anymore. It's all over the place, everywhere in the world. It's not even just in the United Kingdom, everywhere. In America, in Africa, everywhere. Talk about it. Everywhere, heart disease is a problem. And that is because of so many things, a lot of things have changed. The cost of modernization itself, the cost of advancement, sometimes the cost is very derogatory, because you see, all in the name of civilization, all the things, all sorts of, okay, look at, for instance, and I know this might be debatable. I try to be very careful about whatever I say here, because I don't want anybody to start challenging. I'm happy, I'm open to your comments anyway. But you see, personally, and whatever whatever opinion I give is my personal opinion. It doesn't have to be everybody's opinion. For me personally, for instance, I don't like microwave. I don't like microwave. I only use the microwave when I absolutely have no choice. Because you see, the heat that comes out of that thing is not healthy. It's terrible. But you see, the problem is that because of the kind of pace at which we are now living our lives, everything has to be microwave speed. Everybody, people want to go to work in time. They want to do this, they want to do that. Immediately, there is so much to do with so little time, space of time to do it, and then we are always looking for the quickest way, and that's where, so a lot of problems come from that, for instance. Then even look at even the way things are, vegetables and everything is planted nowadays. Everything is with the chemicals, everything is with all sorts of fertilizers that are not natural. Many things are not organic anymore, and the things that are organic, the prices are probably skyrocketed and shot out of the roof, so much so that the average typical person cannot afford them. So it's a whole load of problems. So I already know that, you already know that, all those problems are there, all those challenges are there. So I won't come here to start telling you what the problems are. I'll just tell you, what can we do? What can we do to improve the situation? What can we do? What steps can we take so that we can enjoy at least a healthier life, so that we can be a little bit in more control, so that we can, our destinies do not have to be in the hands of doctors, or in the hands, I have nothing against doctors. They are doing a brilliant job. But the thing is, we will even be helping them if we took more responsibility for our health. For instance, if somebody is dealing with, like I said, I will use that high blood pressure again as an example. If somebody is dealing with high blood pressure and they have gone to the hospital to see the doctor, and he has given them prescription about the medications they need to take, but then they listen to somebody like me or anybody who is giving them such kinds of information of what they can do to take responsibility for their health, and if they decide, you know what, I am going to reduce salt, even if I can't stop you, I'm not saying you should stop salt, because you still need salt, because from salt you get what is called iodine, which you need for your thyroid and all that. So I am not in any way suggesting that you should not eat salt. All I am saying is that you should reduce the consumption of salt, because when I go through that with you at some point during this program, there is actually a specific maximum amount of salt an adult is supposed to consume in a day, and that's just half a teaspoon. And to bear in mind that your bread already has salt, your baked beans already has salt, your tuna already has salt, your mention it, everything, every other thing you want to eat that morning, or the lunch or the dinner, it already has its own salt in one way or the other. So by the time you are cooking, that means you have a little bit of allowance left to add to it. So by the time you add so much to it again, that means you are killing the food and you are killing yourself. So that's a case for another day. So what I intend to do on this program, particularly because of those of you who are listening or watching me for the first time today, is to bring a message of hope. Is to see how can we dialogue, how can we discuss. That's why we called it Let's Share It. I don't want to be talking alone to myself like this. I want you to be talking back to me. So there will be questions. We are still, there are a few questions we already have, maybe from next week. Or I'm thinking, I'm just waiting for us to have a few more questions. So by October, we will start to read out the questions that we have received, and then we can both, can all go through them together. And then, of course, I'm going to proffer my own view about it, the little knowledge and experience that I've been able to gather over the years working in the community, being a counselor and being a health consultant. Then I'm not a doctor and I'm not a nurse, but the little knowledge I've been able to acquire in my field, I'll be able to talk about it. But I know there are lots of you out there. There are dietitians who are listening to me, who can phone in when we are doing the discussion, and they can shed more light. In fact, whatever I don't know, I'm happy to learn. For me, I believe life is a school. So me, I'm ready to learn every blessed day. As a matter of fact, the people who are very close to me, they know there is a statement I say quite often. I say that when somebody wakes up in the morning and goes to sleep at night, and that person cannot point out to something new that they have learned that day, trust me, that day is a wasted day. So for me, I'm always a student. I like learning. So there are those of you out there who are doctors who can give us advice. Some of you there who are different kinds of professions. So please, 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 if you have not been creating time to be listening, from October, by the grace of God, it will be questions and answers galore. So please, I want you to tune in from 6 o'clock. We'll probably be making it shorter then, maybe from 6 o'clock to about 6:30. So I don't take too much of your time. But trust me, I'm sure when we start to enjoy it now, you'll be asking me to make it a little longer. But then please let us support ourselves in our community. You see, because if you help your next door neighbor and your next door neighbor helps their own next door neighbor, we will have a better community. Trust me, we will have. But if everybody is like me, myself, and I, the things will just continue to get worse and worse and worse. And that's not what we need. We need a better society. We need a better community. And everything is not going to be done by the government. It is you and I who is going to change our community, who is going to change our society for the better by just trying to be a little selfless and be a listening ear to our next door neighbor, to the person we meet. Ordinarily meeting somebody who is your neighbor, who is probably a little elderly, carrying their shopping trolley, and you can clearly see it is too heavy for them, and they are struggling and they are dragging it. What does it cost you? What does it cost you just to spare 2 minutes of your time and say, can I give you a helping hand there? And then they will be so grateful for that. They will be so grateful. Sometimes you do that and you make that person's day. And then you see, when we do things like that and we make somebody else's day, obviously they will be happier. And when we continue to have people who are happier in the community, we start to have happier community. We start to have happier society. So, excuse me. So I will really, really admonish all of us to see how much we can try to support somebody else. Now, what is heart disease? Because that is actually our topic for today, and my whole time is gone. But I'm sure all the preamble I gave you tonight has been quite helpful. So we'll start it, and then of course we can finish it next week. Because once my time is up, I don't want to take any much more of your time. So what we want to talk about today, what is heart disease? Well, the most common form of heart disease among adults is called coronary heart disease. And it happens when the coronary arteries, the arteries that bring oxygen-rich blood to your heart muscles, when they become blocked or narrowed because of fatty deposits called atheroma. So angina, which is usually one of the issues with a heart disease, is the chest pain or discomfort that can occur when your heart does not get enough blood and oxygen because the coronary arteries have become narrowed. Angina can be brought on by physical activity or emotional stress, or it can sometimes happen even when you are resting. So if a piece of atheroma breaks off, it may cause a blood clot to form, and this blood clot may block the coronary artery, causing part of the heart to be starved of oxygen-rich blood and may become permanently damaged. And that is when that person has a heart attack. Now, what increases the risk of heart attack is what I want us to look at. Coronary heart disease is more likely to happen if you have certain risk factors. Of course, we know what a risk factor is. It is something that increases your risk of getting a particular disease. And the main risk factors for this coronary heart disease, one is smoking, two is high blood pressure, high blood cholesterol, physical inactivity, being overweight, diabetes, and having a family history of coronary heart disease. You know, in previous episodes of this program, we've spoken about physical inactivity, we've spoken about being overweight, we've spoken about diabetes. So these are issues that people need to work on. You see, even when people have these challenges in their lives, it doesn't have to be a death sentence. Seriously. And you see, apart from the medications that they are on, there is a lot of responsibility, so to speak, that they can take to be in charge by just making some little adjustments. It doesn't have to be huge. That's why I tell you, taking small steps of change to achieve total well-being. It doesn't have to be big things. They will just be little things, little difference, a little here, a little there. And before you know what is happening, you have a fantastically improved and better health. Now, high blood pressure can increase your risk of developing coronary heart disease. And a common cause of high blood cholesterol levels is too much fat in the diet, especially saturated fat. Occasionally, people can have high levels due to an inherited condition. Cholesterol is carried around the body by proteins, and the combination of cholesterol and proteins are called lipoproteins. Now, one of the easy things I'm going to quickly tell you is the way that the cholesterol forms in your body and becomes a problem. Like I always tell people, I will make an example. You see, your arteries is like something like this, like a pipe. And then when the food we are consuming is so much in saturated fat, you see, the way God has created the body is such that there is a particular amount of blood that the heart has to pump around the body on any day. So the heart has to pump this blood around no matter how long it takes. It has to do it within the 24 hours. So, but you see, when we eat things that are very high in saturated fat, the saturated fat lines the walls of our arteries, and then the blood is not finding it easy to be pumped through. And then it continues to narrow and narrow and narrow down. It's so difficult. I wish we were, doing this live that you can physically see what I'm talking about. I'm sure you will have a gist of it. So it becomes narrower and narrower, and after sometimes it becomes so difficult for the blood to be pushed through. And then the heart will now want to force that blood through because it still has to pump that same quantity of blood within the specified 24 hours. So the heart now starts to overwork, and that's how we get into different kinds of problems. So the Lord will help us in Jesus' name, but then we have to take responsibility, because you see, it's not just about praying or just about going to the doctor. We too have to do our own homework and start to see what can we change, where can we make adjustments. Even if it is just in the way we eat, if we start to do it gradually, it doesn't have to be so much at a time. We just do a little bit at a time. And trust me, if we start to take a little step at a time to reduce all this, to prevent all these problems, we will get there quicker than we can imagine. So next week we'll go into what I'm going to talk to you about next week is about your eat well plate, because that is the place to start. If you are able to have control and to do a proper management of how you eat and what to eat, what is inside your plate, that is the place to start. The moment you can take absolute control of that, then the rest is easy. So that's what we are going to do next week. And then I'd like to remind you again that listening ears, we are still grateful to have more sponsors who we call partners. Our partners are those who support us on a monthly basis. They give us donations every month as little as £5 a month. If you give us £1 million, we will take. Yeah, but we appreciate even if it's only £5 a month, but you commit to giving us that on a monthly basis so that we have enough money to continue to run the life-changing programs that we are running. And then, of course, like I said, Rosebud Center clocks 10 this Saturday. I'm so excited about that. Yeah, I'm so really excited. If you want to join us to celebrate with us, you can actually go on the Rosebud website. You will see the details there. And then you can send us an email and we can send you the login details for the Zoom meeting. And then, yeah, so we'll see next week. And then we can continue with how you can take very small steps of change to look at how you can have your perfect heart health. So until then, I like to say take good care of yourself and each other. Thank you for joining me today and God bless you. Bye.